Hello, my name is Brian Casey, Editor-in-Chief of AntMini.com, and we're here at the 2016 edition of the RSNA meeting in Chicago. We have with us right now Jim Hamilton. He is President of the Radiology Business Management Association, RBMA, and he's here to talk with us about the 2016 election's impact on radiology and what we might see in the year ahead. Jim, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you very much for inviting RBMA to be a part of this presentation for AntMini.
Great, our pleasure. So the 2016 election was really quite a surprise for a lot of people how it turned out, and it looks like there could be a lot of changes to healthcare in general and radiology in particular. What sort of things do you think that radiology can see coming down the pike?
Well, I agree with you. I think that first and foremost, people did take this by surprise. It was something unexpected, and I think that the Trump election, I think they have a lot of things on their plate for the first 100 days or so. So I personally don't see there being a lot of change right away. Mm-hmm. But as we go down the road, I think Trump has already announced that he doesn't plan to repeal Obamacare or the ACA right away. He wants to get fixes to it and get those implemented so that people aren't worried about it. And I think that that's the correct approach. I think that radiology in general has a lot of changes coming despite the Trump election. I think that things like bundled payments and quality of care are things that the radiologists have to be looking for in the future. We certainly have MACRA currently on the horizon. MACRA isn't going to go away. And
MACRA is the provision. Could you explain that a little bit?
MACRA is the legislation that they formed, I forget what year, a couple of years ago, and they combined MIPS and APMs into one legislation to create measures for radiologists. And those measures aren't going to go away or change because that's a legislative issue. I think that some of the regulations might be possibly lessened. Hopefully we won't get a flood of regulations constantly from Trump's administration like we have in the past. That would be huge for radiology. Yeah. But pressure on reimbursement, pressure on quality for radiology is not going to go away and continue.
So it seems like radiology has really seen a lot of reimbursement cuts, things like code bundling and things like that have reduced payments to radiology. Do you see that starting to slacken a little bit, or is that pressure going to continue?
No, I think that pressure is here to stay and going to continue. We have seen more bundled payments again this year in the new Medicare physician fee schedule. It just came out, and I don't see that changing going down the road at all. We also, I'm from Ohio, and in Ohio, they're doing a test that was granted by the federal government in 2014 for bundled payments for episodic care, so that certain episodes of care get bundled, and they're going to use the Medicaid program in Ohio to pilot that. I see that as something that if it's remotely successful, they'll probably expand that into the federal government arena also with Medicare patients.
Okay. Now, one big focus that the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have made is on this idea of value-based care, not volume. And a few months ago, they released some outlines on how they were going to implement that, and there was really quite it seemed like it was kind of burdensome from a practice standpoint in terms of all the things that they had to comply with. Do you think that that's going to continue, or are we going to see some of that go away with the Trump administration?
No, radiologists in general have been very efficient, and for 20 years they've been becoming more and more efficient. And with RVUs, they've created better and better pathways and reading capabilities to be more productive in their work life. And so now we're seeing a change that high productivity isn't going to be the reward, it's going to be more the value. Just like one of the new initiatives that they're still trying to figure out the regulations for is face-to-face. With patients, and how are radiologists going to interact and get paid for more face-to-face, which is going to reduce productivity. So there's a lot coming on the horizon with that.
Okay. Do you have any advice for radiology practices that are trying to prepare for the next year, the next 4 years? Should they continue doing what they've been doing to comply with the rules that are coming out of CMS, or should they? Is there anything that they should be doing specifically?
Well, I like to encourage them to get good management advice. A lot of radiology groups have stopped having their own business manager, for example. They're using outsourced, and I think that they should get their own professional management. I think that RBMA certainly has pushed very hard to be advocates in radiology, and they have the radiologists back and taking care of looking at regulations and trying to fight regulations that aren't appropriate. And so I think that's going to continue. And I would suggest that radiology groups look at getting professional management and helping keep themselves up to speed on what's going on. Recently, the ACR, in one of the meetings I was in, made some comment about the fact that a lot of radiologists still don't know about the scoring mechanism and things with MACRA that's coming up. And so how do we get that word out to more of the radiology groups out there? With 5,000 radiology groups out there, we need to really push hard to make sure everybody understands, or they'll lose money over the next few years.
Right. Great advice. Well, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, great. Signing off for AmpMini.com, my name is Brian Casey.